I want you to think of some of the choices that you have to make today. It could be something as trivial as what kind of coffee am I going to have today, or what am I going to wear today. It could be something a little bit more life-changing, like where am I going to go to university, what job I'm going to take, where am I going to live. I'm here today to talk about poverty, and poverty, the United Nations definition of poverty goes like this. Fundamentally, poverty is a denial of choices and opportunities. A violation of human dignity means lack of basic capacity to participate effectively in society. And oftentimes, those choices and opportunities are the very choices and opportunities that we so often take for granted. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about my journey, about learning about poverty, and how d.Light came to be. This is my family. I grew up in Singapore. My dad was born in Singapore. My mom was born in Malaysia. They were born in humble circumstances, but they worked really hard. And they wanted my sister and I to have, what we needed in life. They didn't want us to be in want. They always taught us that nobody owes you a living, that you need to work really hard, that you need to be content with what you have. My mom wasn't a tiger mom. She was quite happy to let me choose my own path in life, but my parents had one thing that they required of me. Please finish your degree. Anything that you do, anything you want to do after that, you can go ahead and do it, but there's only one thing that we require, is just finish your degree, because it will open up doors and opportunities and choices for you in the future. And then we know that we don't have to worry about you anymore. I grew up in a Christian family, and in the Bible, Jesus is always hanging out with the poor. And so I was always really curious about the poor. Oh, he really is. He's always with the prostitutes, he's with people who are disabled, people who are marginalized in society, like Fermi was talking about. And I was always like, well, why does he hang out with them? And well, who are the poor? Why are they poor? And I figured out that, well, I needed to go and find out for myself. Mother Teresa once said, I've helped people to talk to the poor and not just about the poor. And so while at college in the summer of 2003, I went to a small country just north of Australia called East Timor. East Timor had just gained independence for 1 year at that time. They had come out of years of colonization and civil war. And there was an air of both uncertainty and yet hope that was there at that time. We lived in a village which had no running water and no electricity. It was hours away from the capital. And we slept in a tent under the stars at night. We watched the Milky Way go by. It was just beautiful. We played with the kids while we were there. We ran a clinic. There were some doctors in our team, taught English. And we just got to know the lives of the people there and what it was like to live in these kind of conditions. And it was one day in the clinic that this boy came in, and he had burns on half his face. He was in a lot of pain, and it was quite gruesome to look at. And the doctors tried to treat it as best as they could. We had some cream and we put it on. And we talked to the villagers later on, and they said, hey, these sort of kerosene burns are really common. The kid pulled the lantern down, and it spilled on his face and burned his face, and we don't have any other choice for lighting. And that stuck with me for years to come. I went on to finish my degree in mechanical engineering at Stanford University. And while I was there, I would do this one class that would change my life. The class was called Entrepreneurial Design for Extreme Affordability. It's a mouthful. But the class was based on this one idea. It's one very powerful idea. 90% of the world's designers spend all their time designing for 10% of the world's richest people. How can we turn that on its head? How can we be the designers who design for 90% of the world's poorest people? Over the past 50 years, it's shown that handouts haven't worked. Can we use business and market powers to find ways of solving the needs of those in poverty? So we formed project teams at that time, and d.Light was born out of that. We were a project team that was interested in lighting and energy needs. And we went on to Myanmar. We had a class partner at that time who was in Myanmar, and they were they were helping us to go into the field and to talk to the people. And so we were focused in on light and energy needs. And it turns out the problem in East Timor regarding lighting was the same one that I saw in East Timor, same in India, same in Africa, same in anywhere in the world where they don't have access to reliable electricity. People will burn kerosene lanterns such as this in the night. They burn candles. In Myanmar, they even burned diesel because diesel was cheaper than kerosene. And people would get all kinds of respiratory diseases from them. They would burn themselves, just like that little boy. Sometimes they would burn down their entire huts, and people would die from kerosene fires. It's actually also very expensive. Lighting takes up to 1/3 of some families' income just for their basic lighting needs. So we honed in on this idea, and we created some prototypes to take to the field and to test with some users there. So we created this very crude LED-based light, and we left it with this brick maker called Mia. Mia was very poor. They didn't have money for kerosene a lot of the time. And so we left it with her for a few days, came back a few days later and said, "Hey, Mia, what did you think about the light? Did you like it?" And she said, "It's amazing. Before this, we would sit in the dark, killing mosquitoes at night, and we felt hopeless. But with this light, we were able to do our chores, the kids were able to study, we were able to read, we were able to do so many other things. And this has given us hope. Unfortunately, we had to take the light back. It was just a prototype, it wasn't a finished product, and we couldn't leave it with her. So she cried at that, and that really broke our hearts. But we knew that we had hit upon something that was really powerful. I came to the crossroads at the end of 2006. I had graduated, and we were interested in taking this d.Light project forward. But I was an international student in the United States of America with only 9 months left on my student visa to get a real job. So I was like, well, there are all these amazing tech companies in the Valley. I worked at Apple for a little bit. Or I could do this d.Light thing, which, well, we don't know where it's going. But something really piqued my interest, and Mia was still in my mind at that stage. And this quote from Hunter Thompson comes to mind. "Who is the happier man, he who has braved the storms of life and lived, or he who has stayed securely on the shore and merely existed?" So I decided to go for it. I packed my 2 suitcases and my 2 guitars into my car, and from then on I was couch surfing. I went on from one friend's couch to the next friend's couch every couple of weeks, just looking for accommodations. I spent my time in the machine shop in the daytime, creating more prototypes that we could test with users in the field and that we would use to raise funds. We were entering all kinds of social enterprise or entrepreneurship competitions at a university level. Here at Berkeley, we won $10,000, and we were gunning for another $25,000 at Stanford. And we thought, wow, if we have $25,000, we'll be set. We have so much money. Little did I know. In May 2007, went down to Cambodia to do some user testing. We were out in these rural areas, and we came back to our accommodations one day. We were hot and sweaty and sticky and tired, and I opened up my laptop, and in my inbox was this one picture. No subject, no description, no nothing. d.Light, $250,000. I took one look at it and said, Photoshop. I'm gonna sleep, this is a joke, good night. Next morning, I call my friends on Skype and say, hey, what is this whole idea of this practical joke? And they say, well, turns out we entered this business plan competition, but we didn't tell you guys about it because we didn't think we were gonna win. We didn't think anybody was gonna take us seriously, but turns out that we won. $250,000. That's 10 times $25,000 for those who are counting. From this, we were able to raise $4 million in Series A round and to get all kinds of investors on board and start d.Light. d.Light today serves the lighting and energy needs of people in over 40 countries around the world. We have a series of solar lanterns just like this one that people can charge outside in the day and they bring it home at night to use. They can use it for a variety of different needs. Use it for reading, for studying, for household chores. They can use it to go to the restroom, which in some cases they have outhouses and they have to go outside and they're scared of snakes. And it allows them to extend their hours of productivity in the day. And again, it's something that we so easily take for granted because we can just flip the switch. It allows children, we have anecdotal information about how children in these villages who have our lights, their grades just go up immediately. We're serving a market who is used to being treated as the bottom of the barrel. They're used to getting the handouts. And they're used to buying products that if you drop them on the floor, they're going to break immediately. And they're not going to last you a couple of weeks, and that's their expectation. But we want to turn that on its head, and we sell high-quality, well-designed, user-friendly products. And we feel that this gives our customers a sense of dignity. We can look them in the eye. We do lots of user testing. We say, we designed this for you. We designed this with you in mind. We want to know what your pain points are. We want to know what your needs are so that we can try to meet them. A very short and a very long 6 years later, d.Light has achieved the following social and environmental impact. 17 million lives empowered, 4.3 million of which are school-aged children who can now read in the night. 1 million tons of carbon dioxide offset. And you know what? We're just getting started. Our goal is to hit 100 million people by the year 2020. And this market is actually up to 2 billion people big around the world. That's almost a third of the world's population. So we're just scratching the surface here. Over the years, I've started to answer some of those questions that I had when I was young about the poor. I've met barbers and tailors and farmers and shopkeepers, and it turns out that they're not lazy, they're not stupid. They're actually really smart, really entrepreneurial, they're really industrious, really creative. And they know that having a light like this in their stores is going to bring more foot traffic in. People are going to look at the light and say, wow, that's a cool light, I'm going to come in, and they're going to increase their income in that way. So a lot of our users look at the light as an investment. They also look at education as an investment. They know that sending their kids to school will give them opportunities that they did not have and allow them to have the choices and opportunities that they did not have themselves. And so I realized that actually the poor were not so different from myself. You know, my parents looked upon education the same way. They are fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters, and they have hopes and they have dreams and they have aspirations. They have desires to make their world a better place to live in. And they have desires for their children to have a better future than the one that they had. There is one crucial difference. The circumstances afforded to them often put them in a place where they don't have a lot of choice and opportunity. They don't have a lot of options. And I count myself as really fortunate in that regard, just because of where I was born. I feel really blessed. Bono said, "Where you live should not decide whether you live or whether you die." In this day and age, lighting and energy is but one of the needs of the poor. I mean, there's water, sanitation, and healthcare. There's a myriad of different needs. And you know what? I have to tell you that these are all solvable. We're so ingenious, we can send a man to the moon, we can send a bunch of robots to Mars. I'm sure we can solve the needs of our fellow human beings here on planet Earth. From the Bible, the Gospel of Luke says, "From everyone who much has been given, much will be expected." We live in a global village, and those of us who count ourselves as the ones who have choices and opportunities, who have skills and resources, how might we use these skills and resources and opportunities for design and technology and solutions for those in poverty? Can we look them in the eye and say, I want to know what your pain points are. I want to know what your needs are so that we can work together with you to solve them. And this will give them that sense of dignity. And we must realize that the dignity of the poor is tied to the dignity of all of us. So we're at the crossroads. Will we use our choices and our opportunity and our freedom for the choices and the opportunities and the freedom of others? Thank you.